Before the free agency storm hits, Jerry Jones is already moving his pieces on the board. And yeah, you know how it goes. When the rest of the league is still waking up, the Cowboys are already planning their next big move. But this time, the strategy feels different. It's not just about chasing shiny names in free agency or reacting to who's available. No, this is about being proactive, setting the tone before the chaos begins. And where does it all start? With the NFL draft, you know how. Much this franchise values their guys. Ever since the Jimmy Johnson days, the draft has been the soul of this team-building philosophy. The Cowboys have always taken pride in finding value, developing talent from within, and sticking to their draft board like gospel. Even with all the noise of free agency coming up, Dallas is still locked in on one thing: making sure the next wave of talent is already in the building. That's why we put together this full mock draft simulation using the PFN simulator, and trust me, some of the picks might surprise you. The goal here? Build out a strategy before free agency, set a foundation, and give this roster a clear direction heading into the offseason. This isn't just guesswork, it's a calculated approach based on how Dallas thinks and drafts. And hey, I want to bring you into this conversation. Because let's be real, every Cowboys fan has a different take on what matters more in the offseason. Do you trust the draft more, or do you prefer the splash of free agency? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I'm seriously curious to hear what side you're on. Let's run a little poll too. Draft versus free agency. Which one do you believe really builds a championship team? Vote in the comments below, and let's see what Cowboys Nation really thinks. Now, let's dive into our first pick, and yeah, it's a big one. Alright, let's get straight to it. With the 12th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Tedero McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. And listen, if you're not hyped yet, let me paint the picture for you. This guy, he's the real deal. Think T. Higgins with a little more root polish, a bit of Drake London's frame, and even flashes of Nico Collins' physicality after the catch. This isn't just a good receiver, this is your future WR1. McMillan brings exactly what this offense has been missing since Amari Cooper left: a true X-receiver, a guy who can line up outside, dominate one-on-one matchups, and move the chains on third down. He's 6'5", wins contested balls like it's nothing, and racks up YAC numbers that make defensive coordinators sweat. Combine that with smooth route running and a natural feel for separation, and you've got yourself a no-brainer pick at 12. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about offensive line? Or wasn't there a corner still on the board? Valid questions. But here's the thing, McMillan was simply too perfect a fit to pass up. The board was solid, but not spectacular at OL at that point. And while there were a couple tempting defensive names, none had the same immediate impact potential as T-Mac. Dallas needs someone who can instantly change the dynamics of this offense, someone who opens things up for ceedee, stretches defenses vertically, and brings balance back to the passing game. McMillan does all of that on day one, so now I want to hear from you, my friend. If you were in the war room, would you have made the same pick at 12? Hit the comments and let's vote. Pick 12. Are you Team T-Mac, another WR, or offensive line? Drop your vote, explain your pick, and let's see how you'd build this team if you were in charge. And stick with me, because next up, we're flipping to the other side of the ball. And I promise, there's a steal coming your way. Now that we've got that explosive offensive weapon in place, let's shift gears, because in the second round, the Cowboys pulled off a classic move that fans like you and me have seen before: the Blue Star Special. With their second-round pick, Dallas selected Javon, cornerback from East Carolina, and trust me, this one's got that steal of the draft energy written all over it. Red is one of those prospects that make you go, wait, how did he fall this far? If it weren't for a late-season injury that raised some red flags for other teams, he's a first-round talent, no doubt about it. We're talking elite ball skills, fluid hips, sticky coverage, and a play style that screams Dallas Cowboys defense. You remember how Dallas has a history of jumping on these guys, the ones who slide a bit because of injuries or small school labels, but end up becoming stars under the blue star. Guys like Damone Clark and Demarcus Lawrence, both were gambles that paid off. Red fits right into that mold. He's a physical corner, not afraid to press at the line or come downhill and tackle. And with the Cowboys needing more depth and future starters at corner, especially with injuries piling up year after year, this is a high upside, low-risk pick that could look like a home run in just a season or two. Of course, there were other options on the board. Some fans were calling for an edge rusher here, others wanted a safety. But when a CB1 caliber player falls into your lap in the second round, you don't overthink it. You sprint to the podium. Now let me throw the question back to you. Would you take a corner with injury history if the talent is undeniable? Sound off. In the comments, is this a smart risk or too dangerous for a second-round pick? Let's see how you would have handled it if you were sitting in Will McClay's seat. And don't go anywhere, because in the next round, Dallas might have just landed the future RB1 of this team. Alright, my friend. Now it's time to talk about one of the most exciting picks in this entire mock draft, because in the third round, the Cowboys may have just landed their next star running back. With pick 76, Dallas selects Trevain Henderson, RB out of Ohio State, and let me tell you, this dude brings the juice. This move isn't just about adding depth, it's about building a new identity for the Cowboys' backfield after the post-Zeke era left us with more questions than answers. Henderson is a lightning bolt, home run speed, explosive cuts, and the kind of acceleration that can flip the field in one play. He's not your typical power back, but that's what makes him such a perfect fit for this offense. Imagine pairing Henderson's speed with Tony Pollard's elusiveness, or even as a fresh feature back if Pollard doesn't return. He's the type of player that can thrive in open space and take pressure off the passing game instantly. And yeah, comparisons are already flying. Some analysts see shades of Quinton Judkins, others even throw around a poor man's Alvin Kamara when it comes to versatility and burst. The Cowboys needed explosiveness in that running back room, and Henderson delivers it in spades. Now, was this pick a lock? Not exactly. Other solid names were on the board, like Mason Taylor-Tay, TJ Sanders DL, and Alfred Collins DT. All tempting picks, but the urgency to find a game-changing RB was simply too big to ignore. And hey, let's hear from you. When do you think the Cowboys should address the RB position in 2025? Drop your answer below. First round, second, third like we did here, or even later? Vote in the comments and let's debate it out. Stick with me, because if you think this draft is done surprising you, wait till you see what Dallas pulled off on day 3. There are some hidden gems you absolutely need to know about. Alright, buddy, we've hit the final stretch of this mock draft, and trust me, day 3 brought some serious value to this Cowboys roster. These might not be the flashiest picks, but this is where championships are built, with depth, versatility, and smart upside plays. Let's start with Jeffrey Bassa, pound from Oregon. This guy can flat out fly. He's a hybrid linebacker with sideline-to-sideline speed, plus the instincts to read plays quickly and get into the backfield. He's a special teams demon from day 1 and could grow into a core piece of the rotation. Think Jabril Cox, but with more consistent tackling and burst. Then there's Anis Peebles, DT, one of those classic Cowboy-style picks. Undersized, maybe, but just like Osa Odigizua, this dude is disruptive. He lives in the backfield and has the quickness to cause real chaos on third downs. He's not your plug-and-play nose tackle, but in a rotation, he could wreak havoc, a classic value oversized pick. And now for the wild card, Dillon Gabriel, QB from Oklahoma. Yep, Dallas grabs a late-round backup QB with a very specific skill set. Gabriel's game is all about rhythm throws, quick reads, and timing. He's a natural fit in a West Coast system. Honestly, He reminds me a bit of Kellen Moore back in the day. Maybe not a franchise guy, but someone you can trust to step in and keep the offense moving if needed. These day 3 picks say a lot about the Cowboys' draft philosophy. Find moldable talent, guys with unique traits, and let the coaching staff turn them into contributors. It's not about the headline, it's about building a complete roster. Now it's your turn. Which one of these day 3 picks do you think could shock us all and become a starter in the future? Tell me your favorite sleeper in the comments. I want to see your picks, and hey, if you've been enjoying this mock draft breakdown, make sure you're subscribed and got notifications on. We've got a wild off-season ahead, and you won't want to miss a second of it.